And we're back with Kathleen Brandon from the Ready for Happiness group. She is the happiness chick, if you guys haven't seen her out there on social media. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you guys a secret. Kathy's big dream is to become the Ryan Seacrest of the entrepreneurial world.
Speaker world.
That's right.
That's right.
Kathy wants to be a star maker.
I want to be a star maker. We are a star maker.
Yes.
The company is a star making company.
Yes.
And part of the keys to making stars is understanding how to deal with conflict.
Yeah.
With vendors.
Yep.
And with clients.
Because it's going to happen. Anytime that you have two people in a room.
Exactly. Eventually,
there are going to be times that we don't have the same agenda, or we don't see eye to eye, or I don't like what you're wearing.
Right.
Yeah. And honestly, some of us don't even need the other person.
Right. Some of us can get in conflict by ourselves. Yeah. It's that speculation disease.
It is.
What does she say? Don't should on me.
Don't should on me.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that, Patty.
So.
Okay, so let's talk about vendor and client. Let's talk about what are the real problems? What are the problems that happen with vendor relationships? Because what I'm seeing, we do outsourcing for speakers, so it's all about vendor relationships.
Right, it sure is.
And so I find that there are two problems that really happen with relationships to break them apart. The first problem is your expectations are not included in your paperwork.
Oh, yes. So we have a mismatch in expectations, or sometimes it is in the paperwork and it's not clear enough.
Exactly. Exactly. The second thing is I see people overcommit their time. Even if the contract is rock solid.
Yeah.
If you take on too many projects, your clients are still not going to be happy.
Yeah.
Your vendors aren't going to be happy. But those are the two bigger problems. Everything else kind of spins off of that.
Well, what I see in the consulting world, and as you guys know, my background is in information technology, and with a success rate of IT projects being at about 25%.
Right.
I say that, you heard me, guys, 25%. That means 75% don't meet expectations.
Right.
What I see there then is a lot of, we never got to the root of the issue in the first place.
Right.
So I delivered this thing that we agreed on, but it wasn't really what I wanted. And I didn't tell you that.
Right. And what I find also, and we have to be very careful in the speaker market, my clients are in the public eye. Every project they implement is a high profile project. And so, where we really have to go with clients is right up front. When you're negotiating the contract, the first two conversations of the contract, you got to get a real picture of what that client really, truly expects as an end result.
And you got to make sure that what they really, truly expect as an end result is, in fact, what they want.
Right.
Because a lot of times people ask for things that don't. What do you recommend in your line of work? What do you do in your line of work to get to that what they really want?
We have an assessment process that we go through where we really go in, and it's really quick because we've been at it so long. As we come in and we assess 5 points or 4 points of somebody's business. We assess their products. We assess their position. We assess their publicity. And we also assess their promotions.
So it's the 4 Ps, but not the 4 Ps of marketing.
Right. And then what we do with those 4 elements is we also look at what resources and what connections you have. Because a lot of times, you may not be working with the type of team you need. You may have found people that you like. You may have found people that just kind of fell into your network.
Yeah.
And so when you want to take that step up in your business and really focus on money-making projects, you really want a team that's going to focus on that too. And so in the beginning, when you're creating those relationships, you have to understand if your picture is the same. And also, is what the person is asking you to do, is it really what they need? Like, I have a lot of clients that come to me and say, oh, I want this, I want this. And I'm like, dude, that is not going to make you money. So what do you want to do this year? You want to make money so that you can invest back in your business, invest in your family, whatever. Or do you want to do some cool, bright, shiny object project that's going to make you cool with your friends? Yeah. And so, I think you have to make those kind of decision factors also when you're going into projects.
Right.
And then it makes your vendor relationships that more robust.
Right. Right.
Because you're both there for a very clear objective.
Right. I think that being that vendor partner is very important. And because again, when I get asked to come in to do organizational work, one example is, we really want to implement this thing.
And what is that thing?
Yeah. And it's like, here's the thing though. A different thing is that you've hired a bunch of people who are change averse, and you want them to change, and you want them to be agile and able to change. And yet the profile that you've hired to are people who don't change. Right. So we're not going to address track. I just want to implement that thing. Right. And so being able to have that conversation, say, okay, I can help you implement that thing, and it doesn't help you in the long run. Right. Better to address the problem at the seed level than at the tree level.
Exactly. Something else that I'm also noticing about vendor relationships and what can create conflict is, you have one person, like I find in my business with speakers, everybody hires an admin. Okay. And I'm not saying anything wrong with admins. I think they're very valuable. But where I tend to go with businesses is, okay, what do you really need to get done? Now, you may have a fabulous admin that can do all these things, but honestly, okay, what's the biggest bang for the buck? Is your website going to wait in line while you put your newsletter out, while you contact that person to solve that customer service issue? Or are you going to allow your admin to do the tasks that are really powerful and then outsource some of that other business? Or at least give your admin the power to outsource for you.
So what I hear you say then is issues with delegation.
Very much. I think people are afraid of looking like they're bossy.
Oh.
And so what they won't do is they want to be the nice guy.
Sure.
And so what they won't do is they don't delegate effectively. They don't take time to look at what their team's really good at. And assess that, which you know that from your work.
I know that from my work, yes.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
And so when you can come in and you can assess what your people do well, keep them focused on that, they're going to do it quicker. They're going to be happier. They're going to be willing to take on more projects. And so it boils down to, the proper expectations aren't in the contract. You can't overcommit your time, and you also have to select not just a one-stop solution for everything.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you need different vendors for different things. Yeah. And even though that's a hard place to go because we only want one person to talk to.
Sure.
It's not efficient to have one person do everything.
It isn't efficient to have one person do everything.
And it's not scalable.
So yes, and that's one of the things that I run into in my line of work is that, we've got the CEO who does everything. Right. And a similar thing is true of your vendors. And if you can't, so what I hear you saying too is that it's about being a connoisseur of talent. It's understanding what good work looks like and what good talent looks like, and trusting people to do the work.
Very much so. And you really have to, like, the best vendor relationship that you can have in the whole world, the epiphany of vendor relationships is, you want to value that vendor. And that vendor values you so much that vendor becomes a referral partner for you. They send you clients, they send you connections, they send you opportunities to get into an environment to sell, to network, to make introductions, to meet people that are interesting to you and powerful for you. And so where we're going with all of these problems that we're talking about and how to overcome them, the end result of what you want, if your vendors, if the people who are paying you are not sending you clients, there's a problem with your vendor relationships because they should be. Now, that may not be your problem, maybe a whole bunch of other things, but the litmus test of how powerful your vendor relationships are they sending you clients? Are you sending them clients?
I was going to say, if I'm paying you, it would be nice if you would send me clients.
Exactly.
And some people just don't know that. So part of that is educating
about it. Yeah.
But again, it's moving from an idea that our vendor relationships are transactional.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where people have to take that step up. Like, business relationships are evolving. It's
Yes.
not just about business over here and personal over here. The lines are so blurred now because everybody wants authenticity. And so where you have to go with your relationships is you have to take it a step deeper. You know, why have referral partners and vendors? Why not have your vendors, your referral partners? They're already investing in your business. You should invest back in theirs.
Yeah.
And if you cannot invest back in that vendor's business for whatever reason, I'm just going to say it out loud because I will call your baby ugly on occasion, is why is that vendor your vendor? If you can't recommend that vendor and they can't recommend you, you have bigger issues.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We have to address the bigger issues. But I want everybody to look at the real possibility of having multidimensional relationships.
Yes.
Because that's what you want. If you look at the Richard Bransons of the world or the Bill Gates of the world, I promise you, their vendor relationships are also their referral partners, are also, you know, their buddies that they go fishing with. You know, so the days of separating business and personal are kind of over to a point.
To a point.
And
I know that
conflict even more trickier.
Well, it makes it trickier because that is a female culture
Right.
way of doing things,
Right.
and in a traditional male hierarchical culture, you know, I just did the hierarchy,
Right.
women, men. So we got hierarchy and flat. You like that?
Awesome. I like it.
That comes from Patricia Heim. I borrowed that.
That's awesome.
But in man culture, which is what most corporations are,
Right.
it is very transactional. You know, the coach is on high, and the coach it's very team oriented by virtue of like the football team. The coach says, you run out 10 yards and you hang a right. That's what you do, and that's what being a team player is, and that's different. In women culture, and we're probably going to talk about that a lot more on the show and in another segment. Yeah. And what's happening with vendor relationships, with leaderships, and so forth, is that this emotional intelligence, the ability to be self-aware, the ability to build relationships and leverage those relationships to get stuff done, is what's differentiating the successful companies from the not. Exactly. So I could actually feel the energy coming through the web of some of the men who are listening to this going, oh gosh, I don't want to do that.
Right.
You know?
And I'm not saying men have to be kumbaya. I'm saying just the opposite. Yeah. Because I'm very direct. I am very blunt.
She is very direct.
You know, I'm not up for kumbaya. Yeah. I'll be honest with you.
I've heard her call babies ugly.
Yeah, I'll call you your baby ugly. But that's why people pay me, is because I'll tell them the truth. And I think authenticity, transparency is important in the relationship. I don't want you to be kumbaya. But where I do think that people need to take their relationships is to another place where you can have more than one relationship with somebody. Yeah. And, you know, conflict is part of that, because as you grow and ebb with a vendor, you're going to have conflict.
Well, and especially if you have multiple clients,
of course,
let's face it, your priorities are going to change. And I may think something is my top priority may not be your top priority. Exactly. And part of that is negotiating that. You know, one of the challenges my clients have can be saying no, especially the consultants who they're always expected to say yes, no matter what. And again, managing that conflict with that vendor, because there are times that yes, just cannot be done. And learning how to negotiate that back in a way that is okay for both the customer and client. Right. And again, that comes right back to the personal view of conflict.